Shaindy Rudoff was an extraordinary and very special individual. It was my pleasure and privilege to get to know her through the Bar-Ilan Creative Writing Program.
I get a phone call from this energetic young voice asking me if I would be interested in teaching in a new creative writing program. We spoke on the phone. It was Shaindy Rudoff.
It's been 10 years now since Shaindy's gone. It's hard to believe. Shaindy was a young marza at the time, assistant professor. She poured all her extraordinary enthusiasm to the idea, came up with what is now the program that was named for her.
And then our first meeting, which also brought together what became like a family for me, were Alan Hoffman and Michael Kramer, Shaindy, and Sharon Friedman was there as well. And it was a lovely, lovely beginning.
Shaindy was certainly, it was her, not just her leadership, it was her dynamism that put the whole thing together.
I think that she felt that there is English writing indigenous to this place, that's Jewish, that belongs here, that comes from here, that exists and needs a home. And she thought if she builds that home, it will foster greatness. People will come, they will write, they will create.
The first meeting was in my living room in Jerusalem. Shaindy comes over to me and says, "Michael, I have cancer."
She was absolutely remarkable in terms of her courage with which she dealt with the illness. She was never involved in this program, I think, for a minute when she wasn't ill. And she put this whole thing together, and she continued to do it.
We all got going with Shaindy's energy and her very, very clear planning.
We managed to get the program up, I think, a year later, and we started it.
So she just got the charge from the department, and then she developed it, took off and ran with it.
The idea was not only to get Israeli students, but to attract students from abroad for a year in Israel to immerse themselves both in Jewish and Israeli culture.
I think for Shaindy it was a home also for her own exploratory and self-examining her talent, her brilliance.
Very soon the program was developed into a group of individuals of all types of backgrounds.
People who were religious, people who were not religious, people who were Jewish, who were not Jewish, who would come here and have a sort of creative encounter with each other, with professional writers, and with the world around them here.
This specific program is the only program in the world that teaches creative writing with an Israeli and Jewish focus.
Writers are influenced, inspired by being in Israel. I know I was. A lot of my writing was influenced by the place, by my experiences here.
The presence of the Jewish texts were there. I was a little bit worried that maybe there'd be some sort of restrictions on what would be acceptable, what would be desirable for me to write. I was really delighted with what I found. I felt there was zero limitation on what I could write.
We have a terrific mix of students who come from Israel and abroad, and within Israel the population is varied, and lots of different writing styles, people working on many, many different projects.
We have probably about between 17 and 26 students a year, and they come from about 13 different language groups around the world.
I think the teachers are certainly very motivated and charmed by the exchange with students from different cultures. I've had students who are Palestinian, some from America, some from Canada.
We have students who want to come and learn more about Israel and the Middle East, and this is the most effective and the best place for them to study.
I think there are moments in the classroom that are not easy, moments of confrontation, different worlds, different worldviews, and it seems to me that that is wonderful. I feel that the writing classroom is maybe one of the best places for that to happen, and I know that all the faculty in the program do our best to make the classroom a space in which really anything can be written.
I think one of the most unique things here is the class size, and the full-time faculty or the visiting lecturers are working with us very closely, and there's a lot of care and a lot of attention.
There's a very nice relationship between all the faculty members, and this is unusual. And I think that warmth really infiltrated the entire program.
The conferences she put together were masterpieces, were just incredible.
The first one was a creative writing conference. The conference was, I think, the first of its kind in Israel, as the program is. She invited me to speak, and I said, no, I can't do that. And she said, no, speak about where your work comes from. And in fact, she inspired me, and I did take part in that conference.
She wasn't just a scholar. She also was living in the times that she lived in. She brought contemporary writers and poets and artists to speak to us. It was her encouragement that helped me to write about my own people, stories I thought nobody would be interested in.
That's what she gave to other people. She made them more of who they were. She amplified that.
In fact, one of the things that's come on more recently in later years to some great distinction is the translation programs, which are both in fiction and in poetry. That also seems to me in many ways to be emblematic of what Shaindy was interested in.
A few years into the program, though, we began a creative nonfiction track. We also noticed that so many students couldn't quite fit into a specific category. So I developed a course called Hybrid Literature. We've had maybe a quarter of our students writing hybrid theses, and a couple of them have published books already from this course.
Well, anybody who chooses to come to a creative writing program is willing to take risks. Maybe as they go through the program, they'll discover new ways of expressing themselves. It's very exciting to see that the person who comes in here isn't exactly the same person who leaves at the end of a creative writing degree.
I joined the creative writing program because I want to extend my horizon and go beyond the Dutch language. I knew how to build up a story, but did I know to bring out this little bird that sits inside of me and that is the creative writer? But once this door was opened, I let it go out, and I feel that it improved my writing tremendously.
There's something comforting about finding out that you kind of belong to a genre of literature. What types of themes suit me? Which writing style suits me the best?
I've learned how to look more critically at other people's writing, and as a result, I think I look more critically at my own writing.
I became a writer in the program. The program offers what I always looked for in my field, in dance, and that is creative tools in order to express my narrative.
Our creative writers have graduated in poetry and fiction, have ended up being translators for Said Kashua, for Agi Michol, for Dutch, for Portuguese writers. They've ended up being assignments editors at Haaretz.
I find the students, without having ever met Shaindy, are imbued with this energy and excitement that she created the program with.
I was very privileged to know her and to have her as a teacher. She was a very warm, very understanding teacher, and she would give you her time. She was extremely good. She was a teacher in every respect. The smile on her face and the shine in her eyes was something that I'll never forget.
The longer that I'm a part of this program, the more amazed I am at what Shaindy managed to do here. 10, 12 years ago at Bar Ilan, this was not an obvious move to bring a program like this in English that would attract such a diverse student population. And I think she had amazing vision and guts, really guts.
She was a great communicator, and she was a great teacher. She was inspiring, she was funny, she was passionate about what she enjoyed, and that was meaning literature, and she was a very attractive person, very charming. So she had all these qualities that drew, of course, her friends, but also students to her.
When people talk about Shaindy, they really talk about her ability to make everybody feel that they matter, her ability to make everyone feel loved, her incredible enthusiasm, and her really, really incredible vision.
I remember how hard my grandfather, Sheldon Rudolph Zal, worked, and my grandmother continues to work to perpetuate the program.
Shaindy was a visionary, and she had realized the vision that she had.
Always, whenever we have meetings, there's certain things where I say to myself and I say to our creative writing committee, this is what Shaindy wanted, and that's the way it's going to be, and that's the way it is.
I think she knew that it had in it all of the possibility for continuing. I think she would be delighted to know that how much her parents continued the legacy. Shelley and Hedda came to every event, and Hedda continues to be very, very much a vital part of it. Even if Shaindy couldn't have envisioned exactly where it was going, I think she would be delighted.
There was an unwritten idea that we would somehow help the program to continue, because that was her legacy. She wanted to make a contribution of her own, so this was going to be what she would leave behind.
It's the one place in which we can forget a lot of these differences and just write as human beings. It's an incredible expression of hope and optimism in the future, and it's a really exciting place to be.